this is what happens when you do things fast. Okay. Hey, hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia, and I read so many books in July. I read 22 books. Yeah, I don't know. So obviously, sit down, grab a snack, we're gonna be here a while. So the first book I read was Undercover Bromance. I read this for my Is It a Beach Read style video, just exploring the beach read genre, because it's not a bad bitch genre. This is the second book in the Bromance Book Club kind of like companion series, following Braden Mack, who's like this hot rich guy who is now infatuated with a sister of the wife in the first book who works at a restaurant. He gets her fired and they're trying to like set up the boss to get like arrested or you know, get his comeuppance because he's not a cool dude. This book was really hard for me to read in many parts because I was expecting like the fun lightheartedness of the first book, and yes, it has been a while since I read the first book, but I do remember that the tone kind of did keep pretty light for most of that book. And for this one it was really strange because while there were like really light and fluffy moments, I mean, I think I mentioned in my review or in my vlog there was like a fart joke, but then there was also like this sexual assault and sexual harassment in the workplace storyline, and coupled with that, kind of juxtaposed with that, it really felt uncomfortable to read, kind of like back-to-back scenes of lightheartedness and funny, quirky situations and moments, and then having this other kind of darker storyline going on, more serious I should say. And I just don't think that it really made sense and I really don't like that it was using those sorts of things, sexual assault and sexual harassment, as a plot device to get these two characters together in a romance, because I did like the romance. Like, I think that they were two people that went really well together. They had very real like kind of flaws and issues, but they also felt like they had a really genuine connection. But I feel like the circumstances surrounding how they were getting together and their forced proximity was really not the best choice. And I give this 2 stars. Then I read The Romantic Agenda by Claire Can. I adored this book. Like, I'm just gonna say right off the bat. This is a book about 2 ace best friends, Joy and Malcolm, and they have been kind of inseparable since college, I believe. This has kind of caused a bit of issues for Malcolm in his dating life. He's always kind of been trying to find the one. But for Joy, it's caused issues in the fact that she has been in love with Malcolm since day one, at least for like a really long time. So now Malcolm is kind of like set his sights on this girl named Summer. He has decided to bring both Summer and Joy on vacation with him, but also bring around Summer's ex-boyfriend named Fox. The ace representation is just like top tier. Like, Claire Can like never fucking misses. The romance in here was fabulous. Like, literally so well thought out and well developed. I know some people don't like fade to black kind of scenes, and I think that you would actually enjoy this even though it doesn't have like sex scenes, because like I said, many of the characters are asexual. I think they could scratch your itch. This is me selling it to Aloe, so I'm like, guys, you could read it. It's a really heartfelt story too. Like, I mean, there's a lot to digest about it, you know. Obviously it's probably a hard thing to be in love with someone for a really long time and not have that reciprocated, and then also just like their friendship is really strong between Joy and Malcolm. There's a lot of good communication, a lot of good discussions are had, even though, you know, kind of the main point of the book is a little bit of a miscommunication because no one knows that Joy's in love with Malcolm. Besides that, there's great romance, great discussions. It literally does everything. It's also like a lot of fun. Like, I'm sorry, Claire Can's wedding is so much fun as well. I mean, there's always like funny little goofs. Yeah, there's lots of great things going on in this one, and I think really so many people would love this book, so I give this 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Anne, an adaptation of Anne of Green Gables. This is a graphic novel. This is kind of putting Anne in the contemporary world as she is kind of like just landed her first kind of like more stable foster home in the Cuthberts and is exploring the world of Avonlea. It's okay. I didn't love this one. Obviously, I don't know if you can see from this angle, but there's my Anne of Green Gables collection. It's excessive, we are aware. Anne occupies a very special place in my heart, and I haven't really read a retelling of Anne, but I was really excited about it. I think that her story is so universal about finding a home and feeling at home and just like those sorts of things. But I just don't really like how this author chose to interpret the story. Like, a lot of the characters didn't really act very authentic to the source material, and I do think that I have read other like retellings and adaptations, and I feel like one of my favorite things is when you see them, you know, act like themselves for the most part. So that's one thing that I do feel like I could see across the board in adaptations, and this one didn't really have. I feel like a lot of the characters kind of just, they really felt forced to serve their purpose in the story, as well as like with the changes in the story. And this one, Anne is, I don't know if she actually states this, but she is queer and she has a crush on Diana. So in order to further that plot line, there had to be like other things that like changed, especially with like the Anne and Gilbert plot line. So I just really didn't enjoy how that was set up. I feel like it didn't really come about organically, and especially in that conversation with like, you know, the 12-year-old age group, I feel like having the distinction and discussion of a friendship to a crush or a romance or whatever really needs to be clear, and I feel like they didn't really solidify that. And I also think that like the parents also didn't really act, the Cuthberts didn't really act like normal human people and parents. I feel like every other thing that they were saying was kind of preachy, you know, beautifully crafted and very well thought out, but like I think that sets up a false expectation for kids, and I do think that it's great to have good role models, but I think that for that to be plausible, you have to have dialogue that's very realistic. So I didn't get a lot of enjoyment out of this book. I didn't love the art style. I didn't really love it. I liked the premise. I'm down to see more Anne adaptations, but this one just wasn't for me, unfortunately, so I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Then I listened to the audiobook for Omar Rising. This is like a companion to Amal Unbound. I loved that book, so underrated. These are middle grade books, and this is about Omar, and he is very smart, but smart enough to get into preparatory kind of school outside of his very small town, and he goes there on scholarship, and he learns that the scholarship kids are not treated nearly as well as the other students, and his life there is very, very difficult. And he's struggling with a lot of hardships in not only dealing with the bureaucracy and the like favoritism of this new school and environment he's placed in, but also like the fact that he doesn't really feel like he can tell his family and his friends back home, who he'll feel like he'll let down. It's really interesting. It's really fantastic. Like, it's such a great middle grade. You know, Omar is such like a lovely character to read from. He just like makes you love him from day one. And I mean, obviously, like you can see in the first book, he's so lovely and so sweet and really is just always trying to do his best. And I think this is such a sweet story for kids. I think that these books are such great middle grades, you know, about not only like the importance of education, which Amal Unbound was really about, but about, you know, standing up for yourself and like what you believe in and having rights. And I think those are such important things and poignant things to bring up now, especially, but also I think it's a really like approachable way for kids to learn about their own authority, their own autonomy. So I think it was a really great story and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Then my 100th book of the year, yes, I already reached it. I read Ophelia After All. I love this book. This book was really great. This book centers around Ophelia as well as her group of friends, and I was about to count how many there are. Her like other 5 group of friends as they are preparing for prom and then graduation, but mostly prom. And through this, Ophelia is discovering that she might have an interest in girls. So she's discovering that and kind of grappling with what that means for, like, she's feeling the seismic shifts in the universe. Like, she is grappling with what that means for her life, her friend group, like her family, like if she is still herself, if she kind of realizes this like other part of her. And I feel like this was done so well. Like, I mean, having a coming out journey like is always like so topical. Like so many people are going through that, and I feel like that the author handled this really well. There's a great cast of characters. I feel like every character was so unique and distinct, had such distinct personalities, identities, interests, everything about them just popped off the page. They really felt like real people rather than just limited to their one, you know, outstanding characteristic or whatever. So I feel like that was done really well, and I really did like how this kind of like ended. I feel like there was a very easy plotline the author could have took, and she didn't, and I really appreciated that. It just wouldn't have worked with the story, and I was really glad with how this turned out. It's a big story about friendship and about finding yourself, lots of flowers, a little bit of a love triangle, but it's a lot about just like the end of high school. Like, I feel like it really captured that. The only thing I didn't really like about this was the pacing. I felt like it was quite slow in most of it, and because it does center around a time that does go by very fast and it's constantly mentioning that it's going by fast, I feel like the pacing should have matched that a little bit more, or maybe not have mentioned that it was going by so fast. I'm not sure. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Still a lovely read, and I will definitely read more from this author. These books I'm going to talk about in conjunction because I did a whole video on them. So I read The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and DNF Will Always Have Summer. I read these for my video that I was doing on them, Read, React, Review. It's a series where I read the books, react to the TV show, and give you your final review on the whole thing. The adaptation, I should say. Actually, not necessarily a TV show, but as of right now, it's a TV show. Anywho, I enjoyed, what is it called? The Summer I Turned Pretty. I think the vibes were immaculate. Everything else just kind of was whatever. It's Not Summer Without You really didn't have like anything I was enjoying, and then We'll Always Have Summer did not have like a single brain cell like in it, so I couldn't read it anymore, and I stopped around halfway, more than halfway. These books are not great. I was like, let me rephrase. These books are not great. The show is not great. If you want to read, or if you want to hear my thoughts, I wrote an essay about it and then made a video about it. Like, I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of opinions. It's obviously not the opinion of a lot of people, which is totally fine. Like, we can have a difference of opinion and like still get along, it's okay. But these personally were not my thing, and I don't see the point in them, but if you love them, more power to you. Like, honestly, I don't care. It will not offend me. But yeah, if you want to hear more of my thoughts like as I'm reading them and yada yada yada, you can watch that video. My toxic personality trait is that I think I can read a book in a day and then go watch the movie, and I did. I read Where the Crawdads Sing and then watched the movie in the same day, start to finish, same day. I'm a planner. I'm a planner to my core, and I had only planned for one day to read this book and also watch the movie, and then I had to go do other reading things. So that's how it worked out. I mean, I still read it, so like, let's give me a break. This book, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it everywhere now. But my parents both love this book, which is why I picked it up and why they wanted to see the movie, and I was like, okay, I gotta read the book first. Like, it's my brand. So this is about Kaya, who is abandoned when she is a kid, and she is basically made to live on the marsh by herself at 6 years old, about her growing up and surviving for the most part, and then kind of just how her life progresses. And it's also about a murder that happens like when she's like 25, and she is now convicted of it, or accused, convicted of it. And it's just kind of about otherness. It's about found family a little bit. It's about nature. These are my themes I can give you. It was an okay book. Like, I don't think it did really anything too wrong. I think that it was a heartfelt story. It was definitely very like sad. Like, a lot of it is very sad. And I think it has a lot of different elements. I feel like it almost had too many things going on for my personal preference. Again, like, this is my opinion. I just think that like it just tried to tackle too many things, and it is like a relatively short book. I'm just saying, I read this in a day. So I feel like if they were doing something like would have been able to like expand it a little bit more with like the romance and stuff like that. Like, I'm just like, I'm so hard to please with romance. I just really am. So that I do like that. The story's great, you know, like Kaya is great main character to follow. You really see so much growth and character development. Like, I feel very protective over her for like a lot of the book. She's just a great main character. Like, she is fantastic. Like I said, I think it was doing a little bit too many things and didn't really do everything so well. Also, like, I don't really like how this book was formatted necessarily. It starts with like the murder. It's like, hello, this man was murdered, and then we like go back in time, which is fine. Like, it's a cute little like, oh, hug, a little grab ya. But I think that like the little chapters of like interjections of the like investigation of the murder were kind of like pointless and a little bit frustrating to read, because I had to read that. I was like, I have to read this book, I have to read this like section, but it's literally so pointless. It's like, we found a fiber. Where could the fiber come from? From a hat, a scarf, a tote, a bag, a what? Like, it's like, okay. For what purpose? So I feel like that could have, honestly, most of that could have been cut out, because it was a lot. I know that it was trying to build suspense, but I don't think that it effectively did that. And it wasn't really until like the end that the suspense, you know, was getting there, and you're like, okay, what the fuck is gonna happen now? Which was great, but I felt like it was like a very, very slow build up, and then like everything all at once at the end. So yeah, the ending was fun. It was great. I didn't fully understand it when I first read it, and I was like, but love that for her. Anyway, her, the author, the Kaya, everyone. But yeah, it was a good book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I would probably read her next book. The nature like imagery is gorgeous, is beautiful, it's like delectable, like you would love reading it. I'm sure it's a great audiobook as well. And yeah, so cool. Alrighty, then I read some books for Summerween. I did like a 24-hour version of Summerween where I read a few books. So I read Comfort Me with Apples. This is a, can't tell you that. This is about Sophia, who lives in a very perfect life, or so she thinks, but her husband is acting strange and the people around her are acting a little bit strange. So she's trying to figure out what's going on, because there's something that she found in her house that is more than strange. It is gruesome, if you will. It's a very short book, short horror, and I'm not going to tell you more than that. It was good. I mean, I think it like got the job done. Could probably see the twist coming. Like, I think I knew what the twist or like big aha was going into it, and maybe that's my own fault. Maybe that's whoever the reviewer that talked about it was fault. I'm not sure. I mean, it was good. I think it was like a little bit unsettling, but nothing crazy. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I think it was entertaining. It was short. It was quick. I really am still on the hunt for good, short, like really unsettling, creepy horror, like Tensions Flesh, which I have somewhere. There it is. Then I read Hardly Haunted. This is a picture book, and I read it to complete the haunted prompt, or the haunt prompt, because I couldn't find anything else. And this was adorable. I didn't rate it, but it was cute. And then I read Horror Store by Grady Hendricks. I read a lot of Grady Hendricks. This one wasn't my favorite, but I definitely think that it was fun. Like a quick and easy kind of original horror. I would have liked there to be like more mixed media elements, because it actually, the actual book looks like a IKEA catalog, and if it had like more heavily like been influenced by like pictures and illustrations and that's the same thing. Things like that, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, because that was my expectation. But I did give it 3 out of 5 stars. And if you want to see me talk about more of my thoughts on those books, you need to check out my Summerween vlog. Then I read The Viscount Who Loved Me. This is the second book in the Bridgerton series. I'm sure I wanted to read this before the second season of Bridgerton came out, but I didn't, because I suck. I like have to go. Oh my god. I didn't love The Duke and I think I was a little bit apprehensive going into this one, but I actually really enjoyed it. It was like very surprising to me how much I liked it. Maybe it's because I watched the series. Maybe not. I don't know. Because I think I had watched the first season before I read The Duke and I, so but I just love Anthony's story. I think that there's a lot to it, and there's a lot of nuance to both like Anthony's past and Kate's past, and the way that they work so well together is just beautiful to watch, to read about. And I just think they're such strong characters, both in Will and in just like their well-developedness. And also like the circumstances weren't, I think the circumstances made a little bit more sense. In the series, like it's very drawn out, their love story, and like will they, won't they get together, because they didn't want it to be so similar to the first season, which I understand, but I did kind of feel like this was a little bit, I don't know, better to read about, whatever. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It was definitely a great read. Then I read 5 5-star books back to back, and if you want to see my thoughts, I have a full reading vlog about all of these. I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This is a book about Cleopatra and Frank. This is a book about Cleo and Frank who meet each other and decide to get married very, very quickly, and it's about their marriage and people involved, the people on the outskirts, about drugs, it's about alcohol, it's about abuse, it's about temptation. I don't know. It's great. And the ending wasn't my favorite. Like, I mean, like, I understand what she did. Like, I know she wanted to pull my heartstrings out, but, like, it kind of hurt my feelings. But that's why I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Conversations with Friends, which actually was not blurred, but mentioned on Cleo and Frank, so I was like, I'll probably like it. This is my second Sally Rooney, and no surprise here. I loved it. Just started watching the series, which I'm having an interesting time watching. It's a time. This is really... it's interesting. I mean, I feel like Sally Rooney just really gets characters, and like I feel like this was such an interesting exploration of character, and I loved it. It was great. 5 stars. See, this is what happens when you do things fast. Okay. Then I read Beautiful World, Where Are You? Because I had to finish my like Sally Rooney journey. I also gave this out of 5 stars. I don't think it's my favorite one. I would probably rank it 3rd out of my enjoyment, but I've given them all 5 stars just because I'm like not an adult and I don't really get adulty things that much. I did really enjoy it. I think that like the multiple perspectives really fun. I really liked the emails. I liked the inclusion of the pandemic. I liked the character who was kind of like a Sally Rooney. I really liked it. I think it was like done very well. Then I read Funny You Should Ask. I had like a weird time reading this book because I hadn't read the like Chris Evans interview that was inspired by this. It's on GQ if you want to read it. It's fucking weird. I read this, I loved it. The love story is great. There's discussions about alcoholism, but it's a really like fun story. It's really well written. The characters are all really great. And if you want to go ahead and read those GQ articles that inspired this, it is fucking weird. And if you want to picture Chris Evans while you read this book, more power to you. It's weird. It's a weird experience. But anyway. Then I DNF'd The Troop. I don't have a lot to say about it except it didn't give me the skeeves and didn't make me want to pick it up. So then I read Below Zero, which is the 3rd book in the STEMist novellas by Ali Hazelwood. This is the first one that came into my library, like, so I'm reading them out of order. I didn't love this one. It didn't do a lot for me. I gave it 2 stars. Okay, and then I read Solitaire, which was my last 5 star. This one did something to me because from the start I was like, okay, so Tori Spring is me. And then I finished it, I was like, fuck! I was right. It's upsetting a little bit. It's sad. It's brutal out here. And I can't believe like Alice Oseman got a hold of my high school diary. Like I don't know where she found it. This is a fantastic story. I mean, if you love Alice Oseman, you'll love this book. It's her first book and she has gone back and like edited it since first publishing it, which I think is like just a fantastic thing of an author to do to make it more sensitive and just kind of, yeah, more sensitive to sensitive topics that are discussed. And I think that's really lovely. And yeah, it's a really dark book, but it's also a really great book. And I love it a lot. Those are all the books that I read in July. I have to go. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I think I'm losing my voice because I've been talking so much. Oh, there she goes. Yeah, let me know what you guys read in July if you read any 5-star books. I obviously read a lot of 5-star books, which is kind of like pat on the back for me. But yeah, with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe to all the things, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!